Hey y'all, welcome to the first episode of the Southern Citizen Podcast. I'm your host, Hope Newsom Staples, and as the name of the show suggests, we'll be spending our time talking to those I affectionately call Southern citizens. To be considered a Southern citizen in my book, you need only meet two qualifications. Number one, you have to claim the American South as your homeland, and number two, you must be 75 years or older. And that's it, pretty simple. During each episode, we'll sit down with these Southern citizens and listen in on the stories of their lives. During today's episode, you will hear a few different voices. First up, yours truly will be leading the conversation. Next, you will hear the voice of Leonard, a super cool Southern citizen who graciously agreed to be my guinea pig for this fledgling podcast. Along with Leonard, you will hear questions and commentary from Leonard's daughter, Laura, and you will also hear from his wife of 60 years, Gloria Jean. So for the next little while, listen in as we elevate the voice of a true Southern citizen. Okay, Daddy, go ahead.
Hello, we're going to try a song my uncle wrote about 1925, somewhere in that neighborhood. And we're going to give it a try. His name was Scott Allen, and the song is We Are Drifting. Drifting, surely drifting down this rugged stream of life. Anytime we get discouraged in this world of sin and strife, let us live and work for Jesus.
I really appreciate you sitting down and doing this with me. It means a lot.
Well, I'm glad we could do it.
All right. Well, will you introduce yourself and maybe your name and when you were born?
My name is Leonard Elvis Langley. I was born June 21st, 40.
So how old does that make you?
That makes me 83 right now.
You know what? I'm 38, so if we flip it, we're kind of the same.
Yeah.
I just thought about that.
That's true.
So where were you born?
I was born in Ucata, Mississippi.
So clinic, hospital?
No, I was born at home.
Do you know any of the stories surrounding your birth?
Well, I know my oldest sister, Doris, Mary Doris, I believe was her full name.
Mm-hmm.
And they were supposed to have been a midwife there for my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And she was taking care of another patient a couple of miles away. And back then, you pretty well had to walk where you went.
Mm-hmm.
And she told my oldest sister that the baby was coming. And she told my oldest sister, said, "Hunt, baby, just catch the baby. That's all you got to do." And I told her she must have dropped me because I was supposed to have been a millionaire, and I'm not.
So Doris so she ran to the midwife, but the midwife said...
Yeah, she was busy with the other lady. And she got there, but it was, on after.
What time of the day was it? Do you know?
It was in the daytime.
Oh, okay. It was the daytime.
I really don't know the exact time it was.
For some reason, I thought you were born at night. I don't know why.
Yeah. No, it was in the daytime.
Because didn't they always talk about how Doris ran through the woods?
Yeah, she run through the woods, as Mama said, and scratched up because, she was just scared to death.
Uh-huh.
And she didn't even put her shoes on. And so she ran to get her, and she was with somebody else, so she ran back. And Leonard's mama said that when she got there, the baby was coming, and Doris wasn't but 15 years old. And she said, "Mama, I don't know what to do." And she told him, she said, "Baby, just catch him. That's all you got to do."
I think she was 14.
Well, she was very young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she said, "I done what Mama said. I caught him and laid him on the bed beside her, And then when the midwife come, she took care of what had to be done."
Yeah.
Daddy, do you remember the name of the place? You've told me a lot of the names of the places that y'all lived.
That was Frank Davis' place where we lived at that time.
Okay.
When I was born, yep.
Was that his property, that man, or just?
That was I'm sure it was somebody had passed on. It was just probably owned the place, and it got that name, I'm sure.
And it was in Wayne County in Mississippi.
Yeah.
Did y'all rent it or y'all owned it or?
We were renting it.
Did y'all farm that area with them?
Not right there, I don't believe.
Okay.
But we did do farming, sharecropping, they called it. And one place we lived, this man had 300 acres of land, and we farmed corn and cotton. And my older brothers, I was about 8 years old. I done what I could. I remember walking between the plow and my brother, and he would let me hold a handlebar in the middle. There was a crossbar on the plow, and I called myself plowing. You know, he was holding a big handle.
Well, that kind of makes me think of the question that I wanted to ask you then, thinking about your childhood. What, in your mind, what is probably your first memory?
When I was 3 years old. The way I remember that, they were having a big day at my granddaddy's home, Granddaddy Langley. And my aunt and uncle from Houston, Texas was over there visiting. And I don't exactly know who all was there. I just remember, was having it. And they, my brother-in-laws, one of them was on furlough, I believe, out of the service. And they gave me a pipe. Well, we wasn't around my mother and them at that time. And I took a sip or two of it, draw or two of it.
Tobacco pipe?
Yeah. And it made me deathly sick. And that's why I remember that. But I remember a little further along, we lived down below my granddad on his place. And I'm sure we was farming there, but I really don't remember.
Yeah. Okay.
And we had a wood stove. It had a fireplace. I remember that. And, as far as remembering a whole lot of stuff, I don't really do it.
Yeah.
But it just comes and goes, when you're that age.
Daddy, I remember you talking about you had pneumonia a lot of different times and how the chiropractor came or somebody came to take care of you.
I had pneumonia 3 times, and the last time it had drawn me way over sideways. And I was probably on my way to the cemetery. And the boys got up in the middle of the night and went to got the chiropractor, Herman Clark. He was a chiropractor in the area. Up at it was Bethel.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a good fire built in the fireplace. They did, and he got me up. And he had a little stool-like thing that you lay on, and he would adjust you when he was. And he made me. He said if I can ever get him to throw up, I can get that flame to come out and get it broke loose. And that's what had me draw it over so bad. So he stayed there the rest of the night. It was about a little after midnight when he got there. And he stayed till the next morning. But sometime before daylight, I went to getting rid of that stuff. And I began to straighten up during the day. So he went on back home. And we sure appreciated him doing that.
What do you think he charged your mama? Or
maybe $2.
That's unbelievable. And for a house call, he came
Yeah.
he drove to your house, or?
Yeah, he did. He drove down there,
That's amazing.
which was about 7 miles.
To the Frank, what was the name of the home? Y'all called it Frank. What did y'all say?
Frank Davis.
Okay, that was at that house, or this was somewhere different?
We'd done moved down where the 300-acre farm was at that time.
Whose was that, Daddy? Was there a name? Was there a name on that farm?
Uncle Louis Blackledge.
That's what I was thinking. I've heard you
Yeah.
talk about that. Y'all stayed there
Right.
quite a while, didn't you?
Yeah, we stayed there a long time.
Did you? Was he really your uncle?
No, he wasn't my uncle. That's just what they called him. He was a working old man. His wife back in that day, he had a lot of money for that time and era. And his wife, she would patch his clothes he had a jumper, a blue jean jumper, and he had 73 patches on it. That's what he said. Every time he'd get a bra or something, it'd tear a little bit. It was thin, as you could almost see through it.
Right.
That sounds like a tall tale, right?
Yeah,
It may not
yeah.
be the truth.
And he could have
afforded.
afforded something, right? I mean,
Oh,
he could,
yeah,
He
he
just
could
chose
afford-
not to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, if she had a bunch of chickens, and she'd gather eggs and sell eggs and put the money in the trunk.
Wow.
They had a nice home.
Yeah.
Back that day and age, they had cabinets in the dining room area.
Yeah, like built-ins.
Yeah, built in. It
Wow.
slammed from the floor up to the top.
That's
and they
very
just had one
nice.
child, right?
No, I had 3 boys.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I had Monroe was the oldest, Jen was next, and Lynn was next, and they had 2 girls,
Okay.
May and Joyce, I believe.
Okay. So let's get back to talk about your mom and dad.
Okay.
What was your mom's name?
Margaret Virginia Allen.
Wasn't there some other names in there too?
Yes, they was Margaret Virginia Coleraine Allen Langley Griffin.
Okay.
There was a few more.
Say that 3 times fast, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you know what year she was born? Do we know?
1900.
No, she was born in 1906, I believe.
Oh, you got it
I
written
got
down,
it
don't
wrote
you?
down.
Okay.
That was my daddy was born in 1900.
So he was 1900, and then she was born in 1906.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So her name, she had all those names, but what did everybody call her?
Virgie.
Virgie. Virgie. And what did y'all call her?
What call her Mama?
Just Mama. Okay. Okay. And what about your dad? What was his name? His full name?
His name was John Adam Langley.
What was he called?
Ed.
Ad. Okay. That's an interesting nickname
and
for
Virgie.
Adam. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ad and Virgie. Did they call each other that? Did she call him Ad?
Yep, she
Okay.
did. Yeah.
And he called her Virgie?
That's all I
Right,
ever heard
sure did.
her, his mom
Uh-huh.
speak of. She'd talk about him. She'd say, "Ad."
That's how she referred to him.
And everybody in the community called her Mama Langley.
Okay.
Everybody.
Everybody
That's
did.
Mama Langley. She was very kind-hearted woman. She'd take people in and they didn't have anywhere, even though they didn't have
Yeah.
anything. And she would share what she had, you know.
Mhm. So he was 1900 and she was 1906. That's about the time between y'all, right? How many years are between? 6 years too, huh? Okay.
Six.
How many siblings are there total?
They were, let's see. They were 8 living, and they was a set of twins dead,
Mm-hmm.
and then my baby sister died.
I didn't.
Okay, so the baby sister, her name was
Shirley.
Shirley, right? Did the twins have a name?
No,
Oh, okay.
no, they never did. They
No.
were premature.
Yeah, and then he had a set, though, that lived, Bernice and
That's
Annie.
right. Okay, yes.
And then these others were children that she miscarried.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you start at the top and go down from the oldest to the youngest? Do you think you can?
Well, let's see. Doris and Blanche
They were the 2 oldest.
Mhm.
Okay.
and Johnny
Okay.
and Joe
Joe. Okay.
Pete.
and Pete
Mm-hmm.
and Bernice Nannies and myself.
Okay. You were the baby.
Mhm.
Was
Well,
Shirley-
Shirley was a baby
Shirley was after.
after
but
me. Yeah.
Okay. So after Shirley, she didn't have any more babies.
No.
No,
That was
no.
her last-
His
that
daddy
was-
had passed away.
Okay. So Shirley was the
shortly
last
after
baby. Okay.
Let's see. Let me see. That would have been 8, 9, 10, 11 children that she.
2
Gave
sets
birth
of
to.
twins.
Mhm.
Were the other set that passed away girls too? Or do you remember?
I think they were boys.
Boys.
It was during that time they buried them at home.
Yeah.
Where they passed away. They didn't, you
Yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't have means even to take care of things like that
Yeah.
back then. Because sharecropping, you
Yeah, you
you
didn't have
barely
that
could
money.
feed yourself, much less any.
So they're not
anything
even in a
else.
cemetery, huh?
No.
But it was boys, we think? 2 little
Uh-huh.
boys?
Twin boys.
Okay.
When she had Bernice and Annie, she said she had a chair, and she would sit in one chair and put her stomach in the other one because she was so big with them.
Mhm.
And then she cooked, done what she had to, sitting in that chair. And the other twins, I think she said, came.
So her sixth pregnancy.
Was it after them, or
I believe so.
I think they were after Bernice and Annie's, because then Leonard was born, and then Shirley was born. That passed away.
Was Shirley born at home as well?
Right.
Okay, so everybody in your family was born at home.
The doctor, again, he was getting old. He was from Sandersville, Dr. Copeland.
Mm-hmm.
And he was on his way, and he back then you didn't drive very fast on a little crooked road. But anyway, when he got there, the baby was already dead, and he said the navel cord was around her throat. She smothered to death.
Okay, so she was a healthy baby, but she just died in birth.
Oh, yeah, she weighed 8 pounds.
So you really were the baby, huh?
Yeah.
And they probably really cherished you
They did.
because of losing Shirley, and
they called him Little Handyman.
I'd get on the back of a rocking chair, and my oldest sister Doris, the one who delivered me, she would rock me. I'd want to go to Jackson. I picked that up back then and say that was a capital,
Yeah, it sounded big, huh? To go to Jackson.
Yeah, I'd want to go to Jackson. She'd rock me and rock me.
Do you feel like Doris kind of like admired you a little bit more, maybe, since she
she pretty well took care of me when she was. Her husband, like I say, was in the service, and he had went to Hawaii, I believe, and he was going to be shipped on to Germany, and the war was over in 1945.
Okay, so she got married pretty quick after you were born. Then
her and Doc Blanche both married young.
So probably 15 or 16, and they were already married, but didn't move too far away, huh?
No.
So in that house, you said there was a wood stove.
Right.
So no electricity.
We had lamps.
Okay.
Kerosene lamps.
So there was no electrical. This was all wood burning stove, kerosene lamps.
Yeah.
What was the bathroom situation?
Oh, you had to go outside to the bathroom.
Okay, like an outhouse kind of thing.
Had an outhouse. Yeah.
Okay. So how did y'all take a bath?
Oh, we'd let the water get warm in the sun in the summertime, and then in the wintertime you just done the best you could.
So was it rainwater probably? Like y'all maybe just caught the water up, or like if it was?
Yeah, we had a well. We could draw some with the windlass on it. You roll it over and over and over and bring it up, and we'd have put 3 or 4 bucketfuls in that tub and let it heat up during the day.
Wow. So she cooked over the wood burning stove. And in the summer, that was probably tough, though, huh? 'Cause it would get
Lord,
so hot.
Yeah, it'd get hot. In the winter, it was good, though. It helped heat the kitchen up.
Mm-hmm. So your mama, was she from Ucutta, or where was she from?
She was from Mossville.
Mossville, okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's in Jones County, right?
Right, in Jones County.
Okay, and your dad?
He was from Wayne County.
So he was born in 1900, you said?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and his full name was?
John Adam Langley.
Okay. Do you know where they got married?
I think they got married at your mom and them's house. Her mom and daddy was Molly and Henry Allen.
My mother's dad was Grandpa Allen. He worked with this timber company. I believe he bought timber and stuff like that back then. Mm-hmm. And that was before my time.
Do you remember him?
Their
grandparents? Okay.
They died
pretty young.
I don't think Leonard ever really knew them.
I was going to say, did you have any memory really of any of your grandparents?
I did. My granddaddy Langley and grandmother Langley. But I wasn't, I think my granddad Allen and grandmother passed away before I was born.
Okay. Yeah. So why don't you tell us about the story about your dad, kind of what went on with him? And
well, he used cross ties. You take a broad axe, or you go down the side of the cross tie, 7x9s, stuff like that. They put them on a railroad, and they still do that today. I mean, they don't hew them out, but they did back in that day. And he was walking by a sawmill, a little sawmill where they would cut cut lumber, and there's a man hollered at him. He wasn't working there. He was just walking by. And back then, the roads wasn't very much, wasn't very wide or anything like that. So there's a man hollered at him, and there was a 2x4 got hung in the saw, and it throwed it backwards. And they hollered, and he looked around real fast, and it hit him endways between the eyes. And they carried him to the Charity Hospital in Laurel. That was about the only hospital around in that time. And he stayed unconscious 3 weeks. It busted his skull. And my mother said he turned real dark, like bruised and all on his head.
From the injury.
Yeah. And he had problems with it from then on. And he got all of his teeth pulled at one time after that.
So he survived that injury.
Yeah, he survived the injury, but he had all those teeth pulled, and he was 45 years old, and all that poison, they said, went to his system. He was a bad diabetic.
Didn't know it.
And it killed him.
Okay. How long after he recovered did he have his teeth pulled, do you think?
It was long about in the same year.
Okay, so he was about 45 years old when he was injured, had the head injury, and then was in the hospital.
Yeah. That was in 1945 when he had his teeth pulled. Well, a head injury, too.
Okay, it was all kind of in the same.
Within a year or so.
Okay. So he was in the hospital all that time. Was your mom able to go visit him that you know of? Or?
Oh, yeah. She would get somewhere.
I mean, did y'all have a car or anything like that?
We didn't. I think maybe one of the brother-in-laws had one.
Okay. They would help her go see him?
Yeah.
And his mental faculties were not there after that. He would call Leonard the dog's name and the dog Leonard's name.
Yeah. How old were you when that happened?
I was 4.
Okay. Do you feel like you remember a lot of that, or it's just kind of the stories that you've heard your siblings?
Just mostly the stories I've heard.
Okay. I don't think I realized you were that young. Okay.
What did they sing when your daddy died? You always told me what it was.
Farther Along.
At the funeral? Farther Along? Okay, yeah. We know that song. We'll have to sing it later. Was was the wake like at a church or at somebody's house? Or
It was at our house.
At y'all's house?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
He was buried at Mill Creek.
Okay.
In the community. It was most everybody like that was buried down there. It was at Mill Creek
Methodist.
Okay.
At that time.
And then that's where Shirley's buried as well, your baby sister.
Yeah.
Huh? So they're together there.
Right.
Okay. And really only a few years between their deaths, right? I mean,
yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to put that timeline together. So, so he passed away. So your mom is a widow in 1945?
45, yeah.
What was that like, do you think, for her or for you guys?
I know it was terrible on her.
Yeah.
And my dad had 15 acres of cotton planted where we were living. And
at the time of his death?
At the time of his death. And the 3 oldest, Johnny, Joe, and Pete, they were little teenage boys. And Pete was probably about 11 or 12, something like that. And Johnny and them were just a couple of years older than that. And they raised that cotton. I remember taking them water out to where they were plowing. And they've raised that crop and took care of us. Back then, everybody was in about the same shape.
Had they already been helping your daddy farm, though? Like, they kind of knew?
They knew something about it because they had been helping him.
Joe was 13.
Yeah.
So Johnny was probably 14, 15, and Pete was probably about 11.
So they had to
10,
just,
11.
and you were 4 years old, huh?
Yeah.
Did they do it? Were they successful with that crop that year?
Absolutely. They were farming on Has with this Joe Barry Walters. and he had a lot of land too. We had moved down at that time. It was still in Wayne County, but it was close to Pleasant Grove School. They had a high school there.
So, okay, so after that first crop, right, your brothers helped get that crop in, but then after that, like, how did you guys, was everybody still in the home, or had some of your sisters already married by that time?
Yeah, my sister that was married to her husband's in the service, she got, all he made a month, I believe, was $22.
Mm-hmm.
And he had sent her a little bit, whatever he could. And then they had a thing called, there wasn't no welfare or nothing like that back then. They had a thing they called,
it's not like a rehab.
yeah, rehab.
Yeah,
They had a rehab program.
Mm-hmm.
And they would, if you qualified, I guess you had to be dirt poor.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a cow, and the stipulation was you give them a cow back, a calf. So that's exactly what we did. I remember that. The old cow would eat bitter weeds, and we would be going to eat bread and milk, and it was so bitter. You couldn't hardly.
The milk was?
Yeah, the milk was bitter. Yeah, we had to eat it anyway.
Who milked the cow?
My oldest sister and my youngest,
Y'all
her
did?
Blanche,
Yeah.
and yeah, they milked the cow.
So was your mom able to work and like bring in money, or was her
No.
main job to focus on the children, or?
She wasn't able to do anything like that. She had all she could do,
That's right. Yeah.
at home.
And also, she had a kind of like a spinal problem.
Mm-hmm.
She said that when Pete was born, she was helping Leonard's daddy cut firewood, and she said that she went to do something. I don't do saw or something, but she felt something slip in her back, and she said that every time she had a baby after that, she had Doris. I mean,
She
had
got worse.
the twins and Leonard. That she got over
Mm-hmm.
every time
Yeah.
would cause her because of the weight, I guess.
Yeah.
And by the time Shirley was born, she was completely over. That I don't even see how she could have it. But anyway, so she not only was a widow, she was a disabled widow.
She probably never really knew what was wrong with her. Like, she
No,
was never
not
really
back then, no,
examined or anything,
no.
was she?
But when she stood up, she was like she was bent over to pick something up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they even started Social Security till in the 40s.
Yeah, I need to Google that. I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
So were y'all able to stay on that 300-acre property after your dad passed, or had y'all?
No, we had done left there. No, we had never moved to that property,
Okay.
because when I was 4, we moved from my granddad's over to the Joe Barry Walters place.
Okay.
And he, like I say, he had a pretty good sized farm himself. And so we were living there. And after we moved from there, we moved to Lloyd Sumrall's place. And that's where all the boys worked in the woods. Back then, you if you found a little better deal somewhere, on a farm, you would move to it if there was a vacancy.
Well, and all of these moves weren't very far from each other, were they? I mean, it was within the same community, or?
Yeah, they wasn't far apart.
Okay.
And y'all did move a lot, didn't you, Daddy?
Yeah, we did. And even after I got married myself, I was working with some oil company, and we'd move a lot.
Y'all moved? Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all got a lot of good stories from that, too.
Yeah, a bunch of good stories on that.
So, okay, I know Mom and I were discussing this. Were there times where y'all just had to kind of eat what you had, or was there a choice, or?
There wasn't really no choice. You just eat what you got, what you could raise. We eat the food we grew. And like I say, we had the milk cow.
Did she have a name? Did y'all name the cow?
I don't remember.
Daddy, I have a memory of you talking about Aunt Bernice, and you guys went over to somebody's field and got some watermelons, maybe, or
Oh, yeah.
am I thinking?
That's when we were living at Uncle Louis' place on the big farm.
Yeah.
And my uncle lived across the woods. It was less than a mile from our house through the woods to his house.
Right.
And they had a big watermelon patch down in the field. And me and my sister stopped and bursted open a watermelon. And we eat what we wanted. And she had long brown hair that was hanging down on her shoulder. And so I mixed the rest of mine up with my fingers and just crumbled it all up like breadcrumbs. And she was somehow or another had her back to me. And I turned that watermelon on top of her head. All that juice and watermelon. She cried all the way home. We went back to the house.
How old were you?
Oh, I was about 8.
You really were the baby, huh?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
got away with a lot, huh?
And
Yeah, did you get in trouble for that?
well, I got in trouble. My mother kind of spanked me pretty good. And then I had to wash dishes. I took my sister's place that I did the watermelon on her head.
Yeah.
I washed dishes for her term,
Yeah.
about 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And
Was there always enough food, Daddy?
not really.
Mm-hmm.
No. Like I say, you just mostly live from, and back at that time, when I was 8 years old, they had a thing called a commodities.
Okay.
And they would get, according to how big your family was, they would give you flour and maybe meal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get some cheese. There's different things, and it was real good.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd go every month and get that. I remember that. And one guy had 15, him and his wife had 15 kids, and he'd get a truckload.
Where would you go to get it? Do you know?
We'd go to the city in Laurel.
His mama said that at one time, I don't know when it was, but she said that they didn't have anything to eat, and they ate watermelon for a week because that was all they had.
So tell me about, as far as education, like your brothers and your sisters, what did that look like for you guys where you lived?
Well, back then you had to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And my oldest brother, he went, I think he went to the 4th grade.
Was that Johnny?
Yeah.
The oldest? Okay.
And
So Johnny
Joe went 2 days, I think.
to kindergarten or just some?
No, he didn't like it, and he just stayed around and worked on the farm.
So he went to school 2 days ever,
Yeah,
and then
back
he decided he wanted to be on the farm.
Right.
But he never learned to read.
Couldn't even write his name.
Mm.
And my other brother, Pete, he didn't ever amount to too much. He married this lady, and they didn't ever have any children. I guess it's a good thing he didn't. And yeah.
So was his name Peter, or like what was his full name? What was his?
Edward Allen.
So where did Pete come into the picture?
Oh no.
No.
I don't know how they.
Y'all just even your mama called him Pete.
Yeah.
Your mama called him Pete.
Everybody said Pete. I guess it was just a nickname.
His name was Edward Allen.
Uh-huh.
So he went to school for a few years, we think, or Uncle Pete. Did he go to school at all? You think?
No, he didn't go at all.
He didn't want to go. So what about, okay, and then that's all the brothers, right? And then so what about your sisters? What was their experience that you remember with school?
Oh, I really can't remember about them.
Okay.
Daddy, didn't I've heard this conversation about Aunt Anise. She was the only one that graduated, and that Aunt Bernice, I think, helped her, and maybe some of the others helped her buy her class ring. I think I heard her tell that story
Right.
from Sandersville High
Yeah.
School.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Yeah. Bernice went probably to the 10th grade, 11th grade,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
She dropped out and wanted to go to work,
Yeah.
and she went to work in a cafe in Sandersville.
And so Aunt Anise is the only one that actually completed high school
Yeah.
in Sandersville.
Yeah.
Wow. So y'all helped her get her class ring, or her siblings helped her get her
I've
class
heard
ring.
her tell that
Oh, yeah.
story, that they all kind of came together and helped her
Mhm.
get her class ring.
Do you think your mama went to school at all, or your daddy?
Oh, I'm sure they did.
I have a picture that shows her in a class in Mossville.
Okay.
So I know she went. I don't know how
Mhm,
far
how
she
far?
went in school. Probably back then, if you went to the 8th grade, that was it.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah, exactly.
So I really don't know. She was probably 8 years old. Looked
Mhm.
like on this picture, or 9.
Yeah.
So I do know she went to school some. I don't
Yeah.
know how far she went.
Okay.
Daddy, let me ask you this question. And I don't know if I heard you tell this story or if I heard Aunt Bernice tell this story, but that she and I think it was Aunt Anise and Aunt Bernice were in the yard, and they were not in school. And your Uncle Louis Blackledge came by and said, "Girls, why are y'all not in school?" And they said, "Well, we don't have any shoes." Do I know this story? Am I telling it right, or do you know this story?
I don't know that one.
You're right. You're right.
It was, I think Aunt Bernice told me this story.
Yeah.
And so he went and bought them shoes and brought them back. And your mama was upset with them because they had told that they didn't have any.
Yeah.
And
At that time, the boys, when they wasn't farming, they was working with Uncle Louis on the cutting cross ties with his little sawmill.
yeah, yeah.
Back then, they called them little sawmills peckerwood. They wasn't, very big,
Mm-hmm.
and you'd work 3 or 4 men, boys or whatever you got,
Evidently, he wanted them to go to school. Y'all must
Yeah.
have been living on his place at
Probably,
that time.
yeah.
He wanted them to
And he
go.
wanted them to go to school.
We didn't live far from his house, I guess
Yeah.
500 feet, if that
Mhm.
much.
So, what was your experience with school?
I went to the 4th grade.
What happened in the 4th grade? What?
Well, all the boys, like I say, every time one got big enough, they'd quit and go to work. And my mother was down part of the time at that time, and somebody had to keep a fire going and cut firewood the best they could.
Mm-hmm.
And so there wasn't nobody left at home at that time but me. And I told her I was not going to leave her by herself, and I didn't. So Pete was there part of the time. You never knew about him.
And I have a report card
Mm-hmm.
she gave me, and on the back it said Leonard would do good if he would come to school.
Did you
Yeah.
like going to school?
I didn't like it.
Okay. So when you were in school, did you ride the school bus? Like, did y'all catch the bus?
Yeah,
or-
we'd ride the school bus. This individual had a bus of his own, and he had kindly built the thing, made it.
Mhm.
And them boys, if they busted out a window, he would say, "I'm not going to replace it. You'll freeze to death this winter."
So he was not a school employee. It was
No,
his own.
he
Did y'all
was-
pay him or?
Yeah, I think the county did.
Oh, I've never heard of that. So this was Sandersville Elementary that you went to school at?
Right.
Okay, that's where you went from 1st grade through 4th grade?
I started, I went to Pleasant Grove for just a little while, and we moved back to the Sandersville area,
Mm-hmm.
and I finished up over there.
Do you remember, did you have friends at school that you liked to play with, or?
Oh, yeah, I had
Okay.
several good friends. One of them turned out to be a lifelong friend.
Okay, so you kept up with some of the people that
Oh,
you went
yeah,
to school
yeah.
with.
Who was it, Daddy?
James Othler Hickson.
Okay. How did y'all see each other after that?
He joined him. His dad bought a car, and he would let that boy borrow it, like on the weekend or something on Saturday night, and we would go to movie together. And if we was halfway dating a girl or something, we'd go see them.
Did your friend stay in school too, or did he leave as well?
Yeah, he went ahead and finished,
Okay.
and he joined the Army, and he was stationed back then. Alaska was overseas duty,
Mm-hmm.
and so he would write me and tell me about seeing the Kodiak bears up there. Said they was 15 feet high and weighed 1,500 to 1,600 pounds, and that's amazing.
That is amazing. Wow.
And they big, huge bears, bigger than a grizzly.
So when you got ready to leave, do you remember telling your teachers, "Hey, I'm not coming back," or did you just didn't go back? Or?
I just didn't go back.
Okay. Did anybody ever come and follow up on you? You think, or
No, there wasn't no such thing as that back
Yeah.
then.
like a truancy officer?
Right.
Nobody really kept up
Like
with
I
it.
say,
Huh?
the transportation wasn't very good.
Mm-hmm.
His mama had electricity then, and his big thing is somebody's got to pay the light bill. Is what she
Okay.
said, and he wanted to go to work to pay the light bill.
Our light bill would be $2 a month sometime. You know, $1.50 or $2.
And that was hard to pay for. She had a hard time paying that.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I picked cotton for Uncle Louis, scrap they call it. You know, he's scrapping what was in the field,
Mm-hmm.
and I made 35 cents. And I went to the movie. It was 10 cents to go in the movie and 5 cents for popcorn.
Wow.
And I
That's
had money
amazing.
to spend.
In Sandersville? That was Sandersville?
Yeah,
Okay.
movie theater. Sandersville.
So after, yeah,
I was just going to say, Daddy, 4th grade, but were you older than a 4th grader? Had they held you back a couple of years, or how old were
Well,
you about that time?
I was probably, by then I was 11 years, 12 years old.
Okay, that's what I
It's
was
about-
thinking.
Yeah.
That'd be about 5th or 6th
Yeah,
grade. so,
probably.
yeah.
And some of them boys were shaving already.
so they just kind of put you where you needed to be, huh?
Yeah, I ain't kidding you. They were some of them 15, 16 years old.
Okay, so you were about 12,
Yeah.
probably about that
Mhm.
time. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Oh, I knew several of them was on up there,
Yeah.
but they had failed over and
Yeah.
over and over. Every class they'd go in, they'd fail.
Did you make good grades when you were in school?
Yeah, I made good grades.
Okay.
He did. I think his math grades were the highest.
had- yeah.
He
Yeah,
did.
math was my favorite
Mhm.
subject,
Yeah.
and but I could have learned if I'd have went on.
Right.
If I'd
Yeah.
had a chance to go.
Well, and that's what
But-
Mom and I have talked about a lot of times. Just
Yeah.
your situation.
Oh yeah, they
Mhm.
was a lot of people didn't have a chance to go back then,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and You-
Didn't your cousin try to get you to go play football and go back to school?
yeah, they said they would start me in the 9th grade if I wanted to come back to school and play football, and they had all helped me, but I had a car note. What was I gonna do? So I didn't go.
You started working at that point,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
your first job was the cotton, you said, picking that.
Well, the first job I had, I went to helping my brother-in-law cut pulpwood,
Mm-hmm.
and I stayed with them pretty good while, you know, off and on,
Mhm.
'cause we all lived right together.
Right.
And I worked with them a long time. When I was 17 years old, I got a job in the oil field. I was supposed to have been 18, you know, when you went to work. But I told them, you know, and I'd be careful and not get hurt or nothing. They went ahead and let me go to work, and I worked on a rig in the oil field
Where?
at Heidelberg.
Okay. So local.
V.A. Saul, he's been in business. He's still in business. He'd been in business longer than any other workover company in Mississippi.
So you had your own vehicle at that point, huh? You could
Yeah,
get yourself
yeah.
back and forth to work.
Right.
What kind of car did you have?
A 52 Chevrolet.
You were still living with your mama at that point, right, Daddy?
Yeah, yeah.
Did your mama ever learn to drive? Did she ever drive a car?
No,
Okay.
You
Okay.
need to tell Hope about the lady that come live with y'all.
Oh.
Sadie.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there was a lady. Her husband died, and she had one boy, and she didn't have nowhere to go, nowhere to live.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother and we all decided we'd let her come live with us, and she could help take care of my mother as she could. So she lived with us for, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 years till she passed away at our house. And Sadie Morris was her name.
So no relation, just a friend?
Yeah, just a friend.
Daddy, I
Yeah.
remember maybe at Major Blackledge, his children would come to your house and your mama would help take care of them. Am I thinking about that?
Oh, yeah.
What do you remember about all that?
I remember, they had 5 children, and she had left her husband, and he was working in the woods with my brother-in-law and him, and so they would come to our house, and my mother would see them coming. They was all 5 of them lined up across the road into our house, and she would cook for them best, whatever
Yeah.
we had to cook. That's what they eat, and they all turned out good. Most of them still living.
So
Maybe
you
all
guys
of 'em.
struggled, but there were other people in the community people were having a hard time
Oh yeah,
back then,
yeah.
huh?
Everybody was.
Mm-hmm.
Leonard's mama said that she taught Linda, she was the oldest,
Mm-hmm.
and we were good friends with her and her first husband, and said that she taught her how to do cornbread and peas, something that she could cook to feed them.
Mm-hmm.
If you see them today, that's the first thing they're going to start saying is something about, her kindness.
Mm-hmm. So your mama was well loved
Oh yeah.
in the community.
Yeah, she was really. And when she passed away, I sure did miss her.
Yeah.
Still do. And but she's in a better place.
Yeah.
Uh,
Did she have like a church that she was involved in? Or?
Oakland Grove.
Okay, so that's where y'all went to church.
Yeah.
So when you were a young man, though, did you ever do anything kind of?
Wow.
Not why? You said that, not me, right?
Shady or something like that.
Yeah. I remember one time, more than one time really, there was a swamp over there called Little Bogue Swamp. And they was like in the summertime, it'd be shady from one side of the swamp to the other. The trees hadn't been cut, in years and years. And they grew up over the road. But at night, we'd come through there, and that boy, Otha Hickson, his dad bought that car. He had pipes on it, make a lot of noise. And it was dirt road and everything. And one of us get out and listen to the other one take off. It sounded, being in that swamp made it sound a lot
loud.
better.
Mm-hmm.
And but like I say, I had a lot of good friends back then. But there was one time talking about the theater. It was in Sandersville.
Yeah.
This boy he walked from Red Hill, which is a community over there,
Mm-hmm.
and he had walked to Sandersville to that movie. And he had a .45 pistol he carried with him in case he seen snakes or somebody jumped him or something. Anyway, he sat down in the theater and slid down in a seat, and somehow that thing went off and went through a couple of seats and went all the way through this man. Shot him in his back and come out on his belt. And it made a lot of noise, a lot of smoke, and everybody got up, trampled on him. He fell when he got up. The man was a large man, the one that got shot. And they finally got him, found out what had happened, and got an ambulance come down there for Laura. And he told the law before he died, he said, don't do anything with him because it was an accident. And they didn't. They didn't arrest him or anything.
Wow.
And that man left a family. He had three kids, yeah, and his wife.
And this was at the Sandersville
Yeah.
movie theater?
Uh-huh.
And you
yeah.
were there when it happened?
Oh, I wasn't there.
But it was like a big
Yeah,
story.
it was a big story in town, you know.
So y'all had some pictures y'all brought, and one of them was you. It's a real blurry picture, but you are with a black bear, right?
Oh, yeah.
That picture. Can you tell me that
Yeah.
story? What happened?
That was in about 50, I must have been about 16
Okay.
and 15 or 16. And my brother and he had three boys, and they come over to our house on Sunday morning. And my brother-in-law and myself was down in the pasture shooting his pistol. And we were just down there practicing, messing around. And they hollered, y'all come here and bring your gun. And we took off up there, and they said there's a bear out there. I said, a bear? No, we wasn't looking for no bear. And they said, yeah, we saw him right out there side of the road. Well, they all went taking off back out there, and I decided I'd get my .22 rifle and go down and come up on the backside, and if they scared him, he'd come down towards me. I really didn't think he would. But that thing, I could see the weeds shaking. I hollered and told them, here he comes. And, they was a fine, too. I didn't know at the time.
Oh.
You couldn't kill nothing like that.
Right.
$500 fine. And so everybody killed a bear till the game warden come out there, said it was $500 and nobody had seen no bear.
There was no bear.
No. It was a big deal till all that come up.
Well, did you shoot the bear?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I shot
you're
him.
safe
I was the
now.
first one shot him with that rifle.
Well, how many times did you have to shoot a bear, though, with a .22? Just one time, you think?
He got shot, let's see, he was going out of a branch up on the hill, sort of, and he run into this guy. That man had heard about it and was coming down to, help with it. He run straight into the old bear, and he shot him, and with buckshot.
Oh, okay.
And then somebody else shot him. There's 2 or 3 or 4 shot him.
So what did you do? What did y'all do with the bear?
We eat him. They did.
Oh my goodness!
It was tough, and I couldn't eat it.
Didn't y'all load it up in the truck though? And
Oh yeah. We still got a picture of it.
what did y'all do? Y'all put it in the? Was it big? It was
It
big.
weighed about nearly 300 pounds.
Oh my goodness!
It was about 6 feet tall.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't a real big, huge bear, but it was big enough it could have
Yeah.
dealt you some trouble if you had messed with him.
Did y'all show it off to people though? Like folks wanted to see it?
Yeah, they turned out church. Come down there, everybody wanted to see.
So y'all
the
had
bear.
skipped church. Nobody had gone to church that
No,
morning.
we skipped that day.
And they turned out church.
Didn't Brother Gardner was with y'all that day?
Yeah, he come down. He was
He came and
preaching
saw
up
it.
there.
Okay. There was something else. Oh, well, so back then, was it common to see a black bear? Or that was like a...
No, not around where we live. It was what they figured out. That man had some pigs in the pasture,
Uh-huh.
and that thing was hungry, and he was trying to get him one of them.
Wow. Because, you know, that's kind of like, they're kind of making a comeback, right?
Yeah,
In
they
Mississippi.
are. Right.
There's
There
some
was
in
one-
the forest.
Yeah,
Right
they
now.
they caught one down here, not too far from here.
Okay, let's stay on a Sandersville story.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so Daddy, tell us about the day that you I think you were with Jack. Y'all had the putwood truck. Y'all took it to Sandersville and had a mishap.
Yeah, we went to the movie that day.
A lot of this revolves around going out, huh,
Yeah,
to
it's
the
the only
movies.
place to go just about. Laurel had 4 or 5 walk-in theaters back in that day. It was booming,
Mm.
and it wasn't quite like it is now. You know,
Yeah.
it's booming, but it was really everybody would come to town on Saturday, and we had went to the movie, and he had a wooden putwood body on his truck, and he had 2x8s, I believe it was, 6x8s. There's about, sticking out in the back about 2 or 3 feet. They didn't cut them off. They just went on behind the stakes, and there's 2 things there. And I was going to drive his truck. He had a 30, I think it was a 37 Chevrolet. And the shelf was in the floorboard. And he was going to let me drive. And knowing me, I wanted to drive or try to learn how. And I backed up a little bit and pulled it out of gear, and I put it right back in reverse. And I thought I had it in low gear. And he said, get a wheel now with a pulpwood truck. And I mashed it all the way down and let out on that clutch. We went backwards. Hit this pickup, brand new Chevrolet pickup. And I remember it jacked it way up off of the ground. And you can imagine 2 spears running into it.
Oh, my gosh.
And he said, get out of here, boy. And we got it back in leave out gear, and away we went. And I never did find out whose truck they were.
Oh, no. No, this was at nighttime or in the daytime?
In the night.
That's a good thing, huh? It was at
yeah,
night.
Yeah, Lord.
And this was at the movie theater in Laurel?
Yeah.
Which
in Sandersville.
Sandersville. Wow.
Did you ever have any problems getting away from the law?
No.
You and Pete.
Yeah. Oh,
You and Pete.
What did you and Uncle Pete do?
what did we do?
Anyway, you told me you laid down and hid where.
No, that was me and Doc Allen.
All right, you and Doc
Oh,
Allen.
okay. So what happened with you and Doc Allen?
We'd been to the Civic Center there in Laurel. It's a good place to go on Saturday night and dance. Well, when we come out, we seen the law coming, and I said, well, let's run. We went down through an alley, and back then there was a thing close to the railroad track there where Ben and Aaron's got their business there.
Oh,
up-
yeah.
up on this
the
end
wood
of it.
shop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I run and went up them steps. It was up, I guess about 20 feet high up on they did something up there with the railroad. And I went up there and laid down on that floor. And they got the other boy. He was big and heavy. He couldn't run
Well,
fast.
what had y'all done, though? Why
Nothing. Hadn't done a thing in
Y'all
the
just
world.
started running, and they thought y'all were up to no good.
And come to find out, he knew one of the policemen.
Mm-hmm.
And he told him that I'd went on to the car, and we hadn't done anything, and he let him go.
That is so crazy.
Didn't you tell me a story about Uncle Pete, though? He did let somebody go to jail for him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, who was that?
Melt Mosley.
Yeah. So
Oh.
what had they done?
Pete, my brother was driving Melt's truck, and he sideswiped a couple of cars, my brother did. He was probably about drunk. And so the law come down there, and Pete said, I told him not to be driving. Well, they put Melt in jail. And Pete, they said, you can go on your way. So
he went back up there an hour or so to see about Milt. And he said Milt, his eyes would dance when he'd look at you, you know, he'd be, and he told that jailer, said, that's the one man who was driving my truck right yonder. He said, what's he doing, giving y'all trouble? He said, yeah, he keeps saying there's somebody else driving.
And Pete never
No,
admitted.
he never did let on. I mean,
And he never got a driver's license either.
Oh my
he
goodness.
never got a driver's
Well,
license.
did they remain friends after that, or was he angry?
No, I don't think they did.
The friendship was over?
Yeah, it was over.
Okay, so you mentioned something about the Civic Center, right? Y'all would go dancing.
Oh yeah.
So what was the music scene back then? Like what were y'all listening to?
Well, we were listening to Jimmy Swan. Used to
Okay.
be at Channel 7,
Okay.
newsman. His son did, Randy Swan. And Jimmy, he was pretty well known, and he was a good singer
Okay.
as far as country music.
Yeah.
He had a good band. I knew some of them boys.
Mhm.
And
So live music, they would play live
oh yeah,
music.
they'd be live on Saturday night.
Would they do cover songs? Like they would sing like popular songs at the time,
Oh,
or
yeah.
their own music, or
They would sing just about, we'd go up and request a song, and they would
Oh.
play it, sing it.
okay, mostly country music,
Yeah.
or okay.
He pretty well knew all the songs that
Yeah.
was popular and everything. And at that time, Elvis,
Mhm.
Jerry Lee Lewis, Fats Domino, Chuck Berry, Little Richard. There's a lot of popular singers.
Some of the best. Huh?
Johnny Cash, and yeah, there's some of the best. That's the best era that we've had. And
I think
know.
that's so amazing that you were a teenager when those men were
Started
their
out.
prime.
At
I
their
mean, because
peak,
I
yeah.
listen to that music now and
Mhm.
it's oldies, but
Oh,
you were
yeah.
able to listen to it when it was fresh.
Tell her about when you and Lynn, y'all were on the porch looking in a tub. What happened to you?
Oh yeah, we were fixing to go to the movie again, and this was on Friday night, and the Uncle Ed Blackledge is where this was,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a tub sitting on the porch, and we didn't know it at the time, but we figured that the old man had caught him a gopher,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and put in that tub.
Oh.
So Jack had a book of matches in his pocket. I said, well, I'll pick the masonite up, you strike the light. Well, when it did, that gas exploded.
It was gas in the tub.
Yeah, it's gas. That boy had emptied the drums on his truck and went and had them filled up again that day.
Oh my
And
goodness.
they were sitting right there.
And they didn't tell y'all?
We hadn't never been in the house. He blew that piece of masonite. We dropped it back down on
Mm-hmm.
there, and it blowed it right back off, and it was fixing to catch his porch afire. It's going way up to
Oh
the
my
top.
goodness.
Well, I got down on the ground. It was about 1.5 feet high, about
Mhm.
18 inches high, and he picked up on his handle, and it poured that gas on me. See, it was tilted, and I had on a brand new pair of blue jeans, and they had like a lock in the zipper. And when you pushed it down, you had to always pick it up to unzip it. So I caught fire,
Oh my
had
goodness.
them new pants on, and the lady of the house, she had a bunch of flowers in the yard, and I lay down, went to rolling. That's all I knew to do. And that boy that was with me, he caught me and said I kicked him down. I don't remember it. And he finally jumped on me and rolled me some more in the flowers, and finally got it out. And then the old man, he said, Lord, y'all about to burn my house down.
Oh my goodness.
And I got the boy, he he seen what was going on. My pants, I was burning on my legs real bad. And we went to Sandersville to the doctor.
And when you were little, you caught a fire too, didn't you?
Yeah, I just do remember. It's when I was 3 years old. Maybe I wasn't even 3. Well, they had, back then you get syrup cans in a big old box, about 25 or 30 cans, a gallon can. And when they'd make syrup with a cane mill, they'd put the syrup in those cans. And there was a box there, and that's where it come from. It was an empty box, and I had it playing with it in the fireplace room. And back then, the kitchen was out a walkway it was from the the main house out to the kitchen in the back. And so they couldn't hear me, and my pants were frazzly on the bottom, and I caught fire in that fireplace. I'd backed up there or something.
Wow.
And they were working out there, and there happened to be a lady from the lived back down below there. She was walking by. She heard me screaming, and she run in there and got me out.
Wow.
And it burned the back of my legs. So I've been burnt in both places.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I kind of want to go back to what we were talking about a minute ago. I feel like every family, especially in the South, in Mississippi, has like an Elvis story. And don't you have an Elvis story from your family about your sister?
Bernice?
Yeah.
Yeah, she worked up on old 11 Highway back in the old days. That was the only route from down here north and south. And they was a truck stop on the highway between Sandersville and Heidelberg. And she worked there. And she said that there was a man come in there, a boy, and said he wanted some change, and he went and played the jukebox. And he said, "You know who that is singing?" And that's his first recording he had done. And she said, "No, I have no idea." You know, Elvis hadn't got popular.
Right, yeah.
He was just fixing to start out. And he said, "That's me."
Wow.
And said he took his hat off and said it was him. And he lived in Tupelo for a while. And that's when he was, I guess, drove the truck down. And he had to come that way going back north.
So I just looked it up, and it said he was driving a truck in 1954. So would that be about right, probably, you think?
Yeah,
53, 54?
Yeah.
So from after that, was Elvis her favorite?
Oh, Lord, yeah.
She loved Elvis, didn't she?
She loved Elvis Presley. Now.
She was a character too, right?
Oh, yeah, she was. Yes, she was something else.
Your siblings were colorful, weren't they?
Oh,
you
they
had
was.
some.
Yeah. Every one of them. My brother, Pete, he said the reason he was flat-footed, they wouldn't take him in the Army because he was flat-footed, and he said he got that way pushing cars. They wouldn't run. He'd run them out of gas and push them off in the ditch.
That's what made his feet flat.
Yeah. So
Well, Daddy,
he pushed the arch out.
He pushed the arch
good.
out.
would you say your family was poor?
Yeah, we were poor, but we were happy.
Mm.
And nobody ever, I never remember looking at any of them and thinking they always wanted to do better.
Yeah.
Like there was a mentality there of they wanted to look good. They wanted to do the best they could do. What do you think? I mean, am I thinking right?
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
you're on the right track.
where did that come from? What do you think?
Oh.
Even though you were poor, because you didn't have a lot, but
No. Well, like I said a while ago, nobody did unless you were, into something where you could make
Yeah.
money. And back then you either farmed or you cut logs or pulpwood or something like that. worked at a little old sawmill. And but I think Mama had the right idea about things, the way she's supposed to be in the world. And we had a good home, and everybody, like I say, everybody went to work when they could, when they got big enough, old enough. And then they started getting married.
Yeah.
Every time one got him a girlfriend or something, they got married. And that would deduct from the family, that one, he'd be helping pay this or that, And it was just a hard life, but it was simple back in them days.
Right.
It was a good life. There wasn't stuff going on that's going on today.
But they always wanted to do better.
Oh,
that was
yeah.
just always the mentality of,
Yeah.
I may not have had this, but I can do this.
Oh, yeah.
And just took opportunities as they could,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Well, like my daddy never owned a place of his own, and Johnny and Joe and me, we've always owned our place. I didn't like to rent.
Because I know with education, I mean, like we talked about, it was not available. But all of you, I just have a encouragement from your family. Education was important.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a
Yeah.
lot of educated people in
Oh,
our
yeah.
family now.
Right.
But it was because I think they valued it. It just wasn't an opportunity. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Right. I think so. I think that's the way, I think we got 5 school teachers in our family. And you were even the assistant principal at one time,
Right.
South Jones.
Yep.
And Hope, she's my granddaughter, and she's got a good education. She does work from her home most of the
Yeah,
time.
I try.
And we're proud of all of them. And my son, we got one son and 3 girls, and he's working in Texas, and the girls has all turned out good. And
Yeah,
so
that's right.
far.
So far, after all these, and I don't think we've ever really said this during our discussion, but you are in fact my grandfather, and we've not said that out loud.
I don't think we have.
So
Yeah.
you're my grandfather, and you're my grandmother, right? And
Yeah.
And I'm
we're
your
glad.
and then mom's with me, but we've always called you D Daddy.
Yeah.
That's always been our name for you, and Mama Big, and I think there's stories revolving around those names too. But
Let me tell you a story Blanche told me. Leonard had he didn't know it until she told me. But they were living, which he did know this, when they were living at his grandparents, and his grandmother. I don't know what happened, but she told her granddaddy, his granddaddy, they all had to leave. So they loaded up. They borrowed a truck and put all their stuff on it, and left. Well, about half, they were going back to Moss, out from Laurel. Halfway there, the truck stops. It breaks down. Well, they all get off, got in the woods, made a fire. Mama Langley got all of them out and everything. Well, his daddy, Leonard had to be probably little if he was born, but anyway, they went to try to find somebody to come fix the truck. Well, Mama Langley didn't have anything. She had some flour and some oil. Anyway, she cooked them what we call a flapjack or something for supper, and they took their cover and slept in the woods. And they didn't come back till on after lunch the next day.
Nowadays they moving off grid. They going back to the woods.
you are the original.
Yeah, I was one of the starters of that. I was brought up off grid.
You were the original off the grid. That's right. Well, so your mama, how did she end up in Laurel, though? How did that happen? Because isn't that where she lived? Her.
Yeah, she lives on First Avenue, right off First Avenue.
Yeah.
And what year was the train explosion?
I can probably look that up.
I'll tell you what, because she died at, let me see where she died at. I got it.
Because when you married, that was you were
Okay.
the last person to move out. Were you was it just you
Yeah.
and her living together? Or
Yeah, my oldest brother stayed there some. I mean, Pete,
kind of in and out?
yeah.
Okay. He was not married, or he wasn't married at the
No,
time.
he wasn't married.
All right. She died a month after the explosion. So the explosion was in January, and she died February the 27th.
1969, I think, y'all. January.
69, January was when the explosion, but she got sick in February and passed away.
Okay. So how did she end up in Laurel, though? Just needed to.
Yeah, one of my twin sisters, the twin sister Annie, she lived right out of Laurel.
Oh, okay.
And Mom got kind of close to her because they'd done a lot together.
Okay.
And when she was able, they'd go different places.
Yeah.
And Leonard's mama wanted to help Pete. He never owned anything. So they were kind of
They
paying rent or whatever
would
you
rent to buy.
buy.
Oh,
or
was Pete
whatever.
living with her?
Yeah.
Okay,
at that
back to
time.
Pete.
Yeah. Yeah, he was living with.
Pete was a character.
So he lived with your mama, so he kind of helped take care of her. And
Yeah,
okay, so he loved your mama, huh? He
Yeah.
loved his mama.
He did.
Okay, just a twist in the story. Okay, let's twist back, Daddy, to the theater story Daddy told about the man getting shot.
Oh yeah, this is.
Uncle Pete married that widow.
Yeah.
That's right.
So that's a twist in
I
that
see.
story.
Years later, or with.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, I knew that story.
That's true. Yeah.
So Uncle Pete's first wife. This was his first.
Only
His
wife.
only wife,
Okay, Sue.
Ain't Sue.
So her first husband was the man
Tom Sauls.
that was shot
in the
fatally
theater.
wounded in that movie theater
Right.
in Sandersville.
That's it.
And she had children by him. Was she there that night, you think, that he was shot?
Oh. Oh, yeah. Yeah, she was there.
Okay. Would she have been around Pete's age? Or older, you think? Was
let's
she an
see.
older woman?
Yeah, she was old.
She was older than him.
Okay. When you were telling that story earlier, I thought that was a connection. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was his only wife.
Yeah.
Okay. And they never had, so Pete never had children, right?
No,
okay.
we
He had
never
the
did.
stepchildren.
Okay. So he was your only sibling that didn't have kids, right? Everybody else had children?
Yeah.
Bernice
Bernice
didn't have
didn't.
Hey,
any.
that's right. Okay. Aunt Bernice.
She didn't have it.
Okay.
Because Aunt Bernice tried to get Mama to give me to.
So Aunt Bernice wanted children her whole life.
Oh, yeah.
And so what?
She'd have give anything for a child.
So what happened when Mom was born?
Well,
Or this was after you'd had.
I had Laura,
Uh-huh.
and she just would adore Laura. Her and Leonard, she'd bring his mama out there where we lived, and anyway, any excuse to babysit, just everything. Well, then when Amy was born, Leonard's mama lived in town, and so we went there after I come home out of the hospital, and Laura was there, and Bernice, I believe she was just as, she said, "Please give me Laura. You have Amy now." Said, "Let me have." I said, "Bernice, I can't give my babies away. You can love her all you want, but I can't give my babies away." But I mean, she was serious. I mean, she wanted a child, but it just never worked out.
And she was
you know.
married at that time, right?
Oh yes, she was married. But Bernice was a card now. She was one of a kind.
Didn't she go with you to help pick out Mama's wedding rings?
Oh, yeah.
She picked everything out.
Yeah. I was working most of the time back then,
Right.
and she would help out any way she could.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Y'all were close.
And she bumped her hair one time. She had a beehive on her head back in the 60s or 70s.
Yeah.
70s, I think.
She was a very stylish woman, right?
Oh, yeah.
Extremely.
And she went and traded cars and got her another one.
Oh, because her hair was too high.
Yeah,
Right? She
her
needed
hair
something
was
with
so high it hit the side of that car once she. Yeah,
Yeah. The hair had.
How many years were between you and Bernice then?
3.
3 years. Okay, so she was your. Okay. Okay, so how did y'all meet? How did you and Mom Big meet?
On a blind date.
On a blind
On a
date.
blind date.
Been
Who's
blind ever since.
Been
but
blind
a
ever
blind
since.
date. Yeah, yeah.
who set y'all up?
I was going with somebody else, and my cousin was dating Leonard's nephew, James. And so
Okay.
I broke up with the boy I was with, and she begged me to go out. James got me a date with Leonard.
Okay, yeah.
And I knew James from school, so I
Mhm.
knew them. So Alice, this is my cousin, she literally went up to my daddy had a little store and shop. He was a mechanic. Went up there and got on her knees and begged him. She said, please, Uncle Hammer, let her go. That's what they call my daddy.
Mhm.
He finally gave in to her and
Yeah.
told her I could go. Well, her and my James and Leonard came and picked me up, and we had to go pick Alice up. And your daddy was a little forward, and I told him, no,
This guy?
this guy. And I said, no, I don't do that,
Yeah.
act like that, Well, he kind of just act shocked, Well, we went and got Alice and went on to the movies, and we had a really good time, and everything.
In Laurel? Y'all went to
In
Laurel?
at what was the name of that movie theater, baby? We went to.
Oh, it was probably the Strand
Yeah.
or the Arabian or
Yeah,
something.
it was drive-in. That's
Oh,
Oh.
yeah, that was all.
Where was that?
It was two drive-ins in Laurel.
Where were they? Where was that
Down
one?
off 011 Highway.
Oh,
off
okay, yeah.
Boulevard. Yeah.
Okay.
well, I still have the programs from when we dated.
Oh,
and went
really?
to
Do you
to
remember
some
what
of 'em.
movie y'all saw?
No, not really. I don't remember, but I still have a bunch of the things.
That's
They
so
give you a
sweet.
little card out, and it would tell you what was coming,
Mhm.
what was going to be,
Yeah.
like the next weekends
Mhm.
and stuff like that. And they'd give that out. Well, teenagers
Yeah.
just kept that. And anyway, so we got back home, and I didn't know how I felt about him. He come up, and he had on this black shirt, and it had a piece in it that was red striped. And back when I was growing up, all my siblings and my cousins said he looks like a hoodlum. Well, back then that was the bad boy situation. Well, I still didn't know what I thought about all that, but I had a good time. So he sent me a note by his niece, Ann, and she brought it to me to school and wanted to know if I'd go out with him again. I said, well, yeah, I will. So we went out with Alice
Yeah.
and James again. And so we started dating, like that. And
Mhm.
every day I would write him, and Ann would take the note to him because
Mhm.
they just lived a little piece. Well, the first letter, I read, I thought, the second letter didn't look like the first letter. Third letter certainly didn't look like the first letter. And come to find out, he had got his nephew, Elvis, his wife, Linda Carroll, to write the note.
And you told her what to say?
Yes.
Oh.
Okay.
And then who was the guy? You got somebody else to do.
Mine was-
Ann. You
So
got
the
Ann
handwriting
to-
was different
Yeah,
every
the
time.
handwriting was Ann to write me.
Uncle Scott mine wrote
Yeah,
something.
there was three of them. And finally, I said,
You were dating everybody.
Yeah.
I said, something's going on, this. And then, so I confronted him about it, and he said, well, I can't write very well. I said, well, I'll understand,
Yeah.
I just want you to write it, be from you. And I still have all those letters,
Sweet.
every single one of them.
I need to see those.
And so he, like I said, then me and Ann, we would, letters, and then we'd go out on Saturday night with James and Alice, and that's how we started dating,
Mm-hmm.
Well, the first Valentine after we had started dating, him and James come up, and they brought me a Valentine, and they had got it off of Leonard brought me one, and James had Alice one. Come to find out, they had got them on drinks, like you get a 6-pack of drinks, and
Uh-huh.
they was
Uh-huh.
it was like just publicity. So anyway, that was my first Valentine,
Valentine,
from
okay.
him. Come off of that. So we dated almost a year, I guess, not quite a year, but we always double dated until
You waited till you finished school.
yeah. And when it was in March, I believe James and Alice parted ways.
Okay.
And so that was after that, it was the first time we dated by ourselves. We'd always double dated.
Yeah.
And so Leonard asked me to marry him, and I told him I would. Well, he got Bernice to go help him pick the ring out, and everything. And so he asked me and gave me the ring, and I put it in my purse. Well, my sister Diane is nosy. Was always nosy. She get in my purse and mess around like sisters do. And she found my ring and took it to Mama. Well, Mama come and she said, "You got to give it back." I said, "Mama, I've always done everything you told me. But this is one time I'm not giving it back. I want to marry him." So I was graduating. And so they said, well, Leonard was going to go ask my daddy for me. So we come in after graduation. They sitting there. Well, Leonard was sweating so bad and so nervous,
It was hot in
It was hot. But he was talking to him about that time my brother Buddy come in. He didn't know what was going on, He just looking around, whatever. I won't never forget that. And he come sit down, and it was just like, what is going on, like this. But anyway, my daddy said, it's not that we don't think you'd be a good husband. We just don't want her to get married.
They just thought you were too young?
Yeah.
Okay.
And because I wasn't 18
Yeah.
yet. And so they were all right with it after that. Daddy wouldn't sign, so Mama went and signed. But the day we went to get our marriage license, Bernice went with me. Leonard did not go, because he told me, well, Bernice knows everything there is about me.
Were you at work, or you just
yeah,
okay?
He was
You
at
were working.
work. So we did. So me and Bernice applied for marriage license.
Y'all might have been the first women in Mississippi, huh?
Yeah.
And so she answered the questions, and we had already went and had our blood test.
Okay.
And so she answered all the questions and whatever, and so we got back, and then he came on Friday, and we went and got our marriage license, and went to the florist, and he bought me it was on your wrist that you put on it.
Like a corsage.
And it was little tiny pink rosebuds on. It was so pretty. And then we went home. He went home and I went home. And I made my own wedding cake and had it done. I cleaned the house up. And because we had a lot of kids still. All the youngins were still at home. So,
Yeah.
And so I had my bag packed and fixed and everything. Well, when they come, his nephew Elvis was his best man. James was in service at that time. And so him and Linda Carroll come. And then my first cousin Alice, and my dearest friend my whole life, and she came, and I had a prom dress. She wore my prom dress. And Leonard come, and he had a white coat on. We got married in our living room.
Yeah.
My brother David Townsend.
Was it a Saturday or just?
It was on Friday afternoon.
Okay.
Friday afternoon, and it was hot. It was in July.
Well, yeah.
And then I had two girls from school that were dear friends, Margaret West and Von Seal Martin. And Von Seal's passed away already. But anyway, they came, and but anyway, he was marrying us, and he was saying a prayer, and I looked over, and Leonard was his head was down, and it was pouring water, just like a faucet. He was sweating so bad. And he grabbed his handkerchief and wiped his face real fast and stuck it back. And after we got married, we had our cake, everything. Well, he gave Brother Townsend every penny he had that night in his pocket. He gave him all of it. Well,
between paydays.
Yeah, and so it kind of broke. Well, I went and got my suitcase, and of course my cousin, all of them was in there, and I had a spatula in my suitcase. And they said, "Why have you got this in there?" I said, "Well, I don't have one, and I'll have to cook breakfast in the morning." So, so I had put my spatula in there.
Okay.
And
For your honeymoon.
For my honeymoon, yeah. So we get married and everything, and we go to our house. Leonard already had a home, and we had done.
Where was the house? Where was that?
Up at
Oakland Grove. Yeah, that's where your mama was born.
Okay.
And so we went to our house, and so the next day, Ed, his nephew, came and with a truck and went back to my mama's house to get my stuff. I had a bunch of stuff I had been keeping, and so then we stopped at Beat 4, and Leonard borrowed some money from Ed to get some sugar, because I knew I was going to have to cook when I get back, and I didn't have no sugar. So I'm thinking ahead. We get back, Mama give me a chicken and all peas, and I cooked my whole weekend of being married. You
For
know.
other people too?
For
or just
other people. So I cooked, and
Yeah.
Ed stayed and ate with us, you know. And then the next day, the Saturday, that was on Saturday. And then Sunday, about lunchtime, his Uncle Scott shows up, and Aunt Winnie.
Did they know y'all had just gotten married?
Oh, I'm sure they did. He was just that way. He done it probably just to be doing it, you
for
know.
spite.
And
Curiosity.
so I wound up and I cooked dinner for all of them.
And you allowed all this, huh?
Yeah.
He didn't have nothing to say. He just, you know,
She,
whatever.
She loved to cook.
Oh, okay. That's
yeah,
what you want to do
know.
on your honeymoon.
I mean, what you gonna do, you know? But anyway, so they stayed, and also we spent our honeymoon me cooking, you
In
know,
Oakland
and all.
Grove.
But it was good.
Yeah.
It's lasted. It's fine, not a problem, you know.
Well, what
but-
do you remember about the wedding weekend? Do you remember anything? Were you nervous?
No, not so nervous. I just, like I say, was hot. About to sweat down. Oh.
Goodness.
That's been almost
mean,
61 years ago.
61 years.
Now, Mama Papa did not come to the wedding, right?
Well,
no,
he
or
was,
did he?
He was not coming, and so me and he had to take home up to Altown.
Mm-hmm.
So my brother, Buddy, was 16, and he could drive. So he took them all. Buddy wasn't there, my
Right.
oldest brother, because he took them all home so my daddy would come,
Okay.
because he wasn't going to come.
didn't
That
wanna
was
come.
his excuse.
Did he give you away? Like, did he walk you down the
No,
aisle?
we didn't. We just stood in front of the
Mm-hmm.
preacher, you know, and got married.
Didn't you make your own wedding dress?
Yes, I did. I made my own
Yeah,
dress.
I haven't.
And I gave it to my granddaughter Hope, and
Yep.
she wore it when she went to leave, and that meant a world
Yeah,
to me.
I wore it my whole reception.
Yeah,
I remember putting it on.
It meant the world to me. But back then I was real skinny, and you know, a little bit of change since then. But
I couldn't wear it today if I had to either.
I think my
Yeah.
waist was 27 at that
I think
time.
I barely got it on that night. It
And
was
I
beautiful.
did that by ironing and doing the twist. When I'd be ironing, I'd have
You'd
to
get
iron
your
all them
waistline.
boys' pants and stuff. That
Mhm.
was my job.
Mm-mm-mm.
And so we'd all do the twist while you ironed,
Iron.
you know, because that was popular.
So where did the engagement ring come from? Where did y'all go buy it? Do you remember? The jeweler
Royals, wasn't it?
in Laurel?
Was it Royals Jewelry?
I think so.
Or-
And Laura, we paid for it for a year after we got married.
Oh, okay.
Over
So
a
you
year. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
do you still wear that one, or you?
It's come broken.
it
I've
wore
had
it,
it
yeah.
fixed several
Mhm.
times, and I'm afraid really
Yeah, to wear it.
You know,
Got thin.
but you can tell I wore it.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
it's done like that. But then he bought me another one several years
Yeah.
ago, and I wear it all, you know, most of the time.
So y'all been married how long?
This July will be 60 years.
60 years, and y'all share.
Our lifetime.
Yeah, that's right. And y'all share the same. So you were 18 when you got married, and how old were you then?
24.
24. That's still
Well,
so
that's another
young.
thing. Every time I'd asked him how old he was,
He-
he got older. Finally, I said, "Okay, you can't be no older than this." He finally owned up to 24. First, he'd say 21, you know,
Right.
and all that, and then he was 24, you know. And
Were you-
I asked Ann to make sure he was
That was-
24.
You didn't
So-
go up anymore after that.
No,
huh?
he stopped at that, you know, and
Wow.
everything. But
Mm-mm-mm. Did you know she was the one pretty quick, or
It took me a little while.
you had to think on it? So.
Oh, yeah, I
Well, you
had to-
kept going back out with her, so
Yeah. The only bad thing, I had to work off from home.
yeah. Where were you working at that time?
Sun Oil Company.
So you travel.
I think was working in Florida.
yeah.
Okay,
that
and that's a whole
time.
nother chapter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So-
Leonard's mama, he wanted me to meet his mama,
Mm-hmm.
and I said okay. Well, we went out there, and they lived at Oakland Grove where we lived at the time, and she was in the bed, and I have a picture that I'm gonna give you, and that's the picture. I took it, so that's how I met her, And she told me later on, when I was pregnant with Laura, that she didn't think she'd ever see that day. That she didn't think she'd have ever lived to see Leonard married, and that was something that really she wanted to have.
So was she able to come to the wedding, or
no?
No, she okay, but she knew.
She was
You
able
went
to
and
see
told her?
Laura.
Yeah.
Laura was born, and she was just thrilled with having her, because she said, I just never believed he would find anybody. You know what I mean?
Well, do y'all want to take a break for a second?
Whatever.
Get you some coffee, have a snack.
That ain't decaf, is it? Oh,
It is. Yeah, you want some coffee?
Yeah, I think.
If a smile, blessed Savior, as we go not let us fail or stumble as we go on our way. Lead us on, oh Lord Jesus, for that happy home high. I just see